Hello, everybody, and welcome. Happy Thursday, and really delighted to be here with you today. And I'm Leslie Bytel, business strategist and mentor. And I'm really super looking forward to our session today because I am joined by Jenna Jaffe, who is an attorney. And I got to say, this is one of those topics, the whole legal world. I get so many questions from my audience about, oh my gosh, what do I put on my website? What legal documents do I need to have in place? Of course, tons of licensure questions and things like that. But we are going to focus our conversation today around the 5 building blocks to protect your business booty. All right. So I think this is going to be awesome. And we want to ensure that your business is covered legally, right? So that you are feeling really confident and comfortable putting yourself out there. So that being said, I want to welcome Gina. Really happy to have you here with me today, Gina.
Thanks, Jenna, by the way. Good. Yeah.
Jenna, when we first started, I don't know how that turned
out. Yeah, I get all the time. It's Genevieve. But
yeah.
Hello.
Thanks for having me. Good to meet you. This is actually the first time we've met. I've been following your work for a while, and so I love all of your content. I love what you do. And so really excited to chat with you today. So, hey guys, let me give you just a really quick overview of some of the pieces that we're going to cover. So we're going to cover how to get legally covered in your online business specifically, what you need to feel more confident, again, to put yourself out there, and when to use templates versus when to actually hire an expert. And of course, there's going to be lots of pearls in between. So let's kick things off. Jenna, I would love to hear a little bit about your story, a little bit about your background and how you got into this space.
Yeah, so I was a corporate lawyer in New York City, and I was not happy. I was working all the time, but really laid the foundation for what I do now. And so when I met my wife, she was a business coach at the time and had said to me, she's like, why don't you start your own practice? And I was like, no, I can't do that. And then 6 months later I did. So I started my own practice almost 8 years ago now. It was like one of the very early virtual law practices. So I only worked from home. I worked with clients over just over the phone. This was before Zoom and all of that. And really just wanted to help, especially female entrepreneurs who were in the online space. So business coaches, life coaches, health coaches, graphic designers, all of that. And, was really lucky that my wife had a whole group of friends and clients and stuff like that to really just kind of welcome me into this space. So I was doing just one-on-one work and realized I didn't want to trade my time for money. So I crafted a ton of templates. So the legal templates are, a way for people to get access to them immediately. It's a lower cost option. Just wanted to help people at whatever phase of business they were. I then went on to create a legal course that I ran for a few years and then partnered with another lawyer, and we ran it together, a course together, which was really great and really, really fun. And then I had my kids and I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So it's a quiet practice now. I don't market my practice at all. I sell templates still because it's easy for me. It's easy for people to implement. And I've had thousands of clients, buying them over the years, and just
it's amazing.
Yeah. So here I am. I run 2 other businesses, and
what are the other businesses?
So I do content creation on Instagram. So I have my Instagram page. I'm an influencer. And then I started this year an organization for the LGBTQ plus community where we provide legal and fertility resources.
Oh, that's incredible.
That's like my passion project right now. It's like it's so near and dear to my heart. We did IVF and
Okay. So yeah,
yeah,
we have a lot to share on that topic, having
yeah,
gone through it.
yeah.
And now
So
you have two beautiful kiddos.
I do.
And your daughter, I don't hear her in the background, so it sounds like
They
she
are
was napping, right?
no, they're watching Frozen.
Oh, okay, got it.
She was screaming at the beginning of this, and I was like, well,
Not gonna work. Okay. When all
we're just
else is
protesting the
yeah, pull out Frozen. I got
mm,
it. Absolutely. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. I'd love to get some insight from you in terms of the most common mistakes that you see online entrepreneurs making. What would you say?
yeah, not implementing any sort of legal protection from
Okay.
the beginning. The biggest one, and you'll hear that over and over, I find that it's not the sexy part of entrepreneurship. And, people are really excited about getting a website and hiring a graphic designer and getting the business coach and getting all of their incredible ideas out into the world.
Right.
And then the legal is the afterthought. And it's ironic because all the things that you're putting into the world aren't protected if you don't have any sort of legal documentation in place. And so I've kind of made it my mission with my specific business of really educating people on what it is they need and why. Because a lot of us, we don't even know. People are like, oh, I didn't even know I needed that. I didn't think about it. So
I
it's
hear that all the time.
yeah. So I find education so empowering. And so that was a big part of my course that I ran. But I have a mini course on my website that I sell that's like in my funnel, it's $7. And it goes over like the most important things that you need and why. Just to again, just really to kind of help you also like kind of hone in on what it is that you need for your specific business.
Okay. Yeah, let me put your website in the comments. It's jennajaffe.com, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
and if you go to that website, you're going to see it's not a legal website. Like it's not about my templates are on there. There is the pop up that will, if you want the mini course and all that. But my website, oh, there's one less e.
Oh, okay. Boy, I am just
It's all good.
all right. Yeah.
It's all good.
Okay.
Um,
E at the end, right? Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
it's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not a legal website anymore. It's a very personal website. I have a blog about like parenting and
Aw, so you've got a little of everything going on, right?
yeah, I tend to dabble in a lot of different things. I'm writing a book. I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
I need to be busy. I need to be busy.
That's awesome. And yeah, I want to say hello to Karen. Karen is listening from the gym today. Welcome,
That's
Karen. Glad somebody's getting a workout in, right? Good for you. Awesome. I'd love to hear from you guys. Give me a quick comment and let me know where you're listening from. Okay, just so we can kind of get a sense of who's with us today. All right, so so there's lots of common mistakes is what I'm hearing, and it sounds like a lot of times we don't even know what we're missing.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah, and you don't know what you don't know, and so it's you know, I totally understandable, especially when it comes to like things that you don't really hear much about, like website documents, like the terms and conditions and the privacy policy, and stuff like that, where you're like, oh, like most people think about a client agreement because they sign their own stuff,
Right.
but it's like, oh, well, it's okay. I'm just getting started. I'm not, whatever. We are good with dogs. I have one too.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go grab them.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll keep chatting. So when it comes to things like that, where you don't really think about um, like the things that aren't as obvious, right? Like most of us know we should have something in writing when we have a client, but the website documents, or if you're hiring someone, or if you're going to use a testimonial on your website, or if you're having an event and you want to take pictures or video, like there's just so many different things that people don't think about. Because again, you don't know. It's not your area of expertise. You're focused more on growing the business and planning the events than you don't want to think about what's going to go wrong. And that's my job.
Exactly. Okay, we've got lots of people on. We have from Maryland. I think it's I need my glasses even. Courtney.
Courtney. Mhm.
We've got Karen who needs this info. And Patricia. Welcome, Patricia. Awesome. Oh, and we've got Drew from Connecticut. Hey, Drew, how are you?
Yeah.
We got somebody from Illinois. Awesome. All right. Sounds good. So, where does one even start then? Like, clearly, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
What would you say? Like, what's your recommendation as
Yeah.
a couple of good first steps?
Yeah. Get educated, like learn about what it is that you need. And I have like a free checklist too. When you sign up, you get a checklist of like, these are the things that you should consider. Just think about and know that anytime you put something out there, whether it's free even, that information belongs to you and you want to protect it. And
Okay.
even if someone's not paying for something, it's an exchange of information, of intellectual property, of something that you've worked really hard on, and you want to ensure that somebody's
Yeah.
not going to take it and sell it on their own or give it to somebody else. So, obviously there are a bunch of lawyers that do what I do. So if you don't drive with me, there's plenty of other ones, but
Yeah.
I have the checklist, I have the mini course. A lot of them also have email funnels with, free guides, but it's just, kind of figuring out what are you putting into place in terms of your business if you're just starting, and then finding an attorney that can help you with that specific business. Online businesses are very different than brick and mortar. So over the years, there've gotten to be a lot more attorneys that do specifically what I do. But in the very beginning, like there weren't any, and people were like, "What do you mean you like have clients buying things on your website?" It was like very, very different, like a service-based business.
Yeah.
So you do want to make sure that you are finding somebody that specializes in online service-based businesses, if that's what you have,
Okay.
because the needs are different.
Right. Oh my gosh, I would imagine. So let's take that example that you gave, like an opt-in ebooks. How do you recommend that we go about protecting that?
Yeah. So one of the things is part of like these 5 building blocks. So number
Okay,
one,
so we gotta get into those, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say what it is: a privacy
Okay.
policy. So you need a privacy policy anytime you collect somebody's information, and I'll go more into depth on that. But also having them agree to some terms that if they're going to be downloading this ebook, that they're not going to sell it, they're not going to copy it, they're not going
Right.
to take it, and it can be as simple as a little checkbox on the form where they sign up that just says, "I agree to the following terms," and link to it.
Okay. Okay, that's a great idea. And that's
Yeah.
probably pretty easy to do in like Constant Contact
Very
or
easy.
okay.
Yeah. I have somebody on my team that does all the techie stuff because I don't know any of it. But you can add. I use Entreport, and you can add a checkbox, and you can make it required that people can't sign up before they check the box, and a check actually constitutes an electronic signature.
Okay. That's a really good tip. I don't think I've got that going on. So I'm gonna have to work on that. Thank you.
It takes a lot of paperwork, like you're not sending the document through, HelloSign or whatever to get signed. It's just a check. And then at least in Entreport in the system, it saves everything that people agreed to. So I can refer back that if somebody's like, "I didn't sign anything," I'll be like, "Well, here it is."
You did.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So what's next?
Yeah. Well, I think just going over the kind of the 5 basic building blocks would be helpful, and then we can kind of go into more specifics. But first and foremost, most people here are going to have a website, right? So we're going to have a website. We're going to have a web presence. There are 3 documents that I recommend going on everyone's website: terms and conditions, privacy policy, and a disclaimer. Privacy policy is a document that is legally required. So it is a document legally required in many states in the US. And if you're marketing to people in the EU, I don't know if you guys remember hearing about GDPR back in 2018.
It seems like forever now, but yeah, I do. It was like such a hot topic for a while, and now
I mean, I had my business got crazy for a while, just like doing webinars and trainings. And yeah. But California has something similar as well, where you have to have a specific. So because it's the World Wide Web and because we market to everyone, you need a privacy policy. And the privacy policy, all these documents go in the footer of your website, and it'll be a little link.
Okay.
The privacy policy is basically telling people what you are going to do with the information that they provide to you. So, you may give me your name and email and phone number for an opt-in. I am not going to sell that information. I will text you XYZ, and you can always opt out. GDPR is very specific as to like, you have to say exactly what you're using it for, how people can opt out, how their information is collected, where it's collected, and how they can get it deleted. So that got very specific, which I actually in some way enjoy, because I think it's important to know where information is going, what people are doing with it. And like, it's not just unsubscribing. If I send you an email, what this is, if I'm in the EU, if I send you an email, I said, delete all of my information, you have to delete all of my information minus anything for legal or accounting purposes. So it's really it was really about consumer protection. So, having that is required. Privacy policy, done. Terms and conditions, not required, but recommended, because this document is going to say, hey, anything and everything that is on my website belongs to me.
Yeah.
I own it. You can't take it. You can't copy it. And here is where you can also put information in about like an ebook or a downloadable, or blog, or just something that just says like, this belongs to me. This is my intellectual property. You can't take it. And like, you'd be shocked at the things that people copy. I've had more than one person come to me where somebody copied their about page.
Oh my, are you kidding me?
No.
Like
their life story. And
no,
I'm like,
that takes the cake completely. Oh my God.
More than one person. So it's just so silly. But you can go back, and if somebody does that, or like maybe they copy, and it has to be pretty blatant copying, but let's say they do.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I hadn't signed a contract with you. You're like, actually, this document in the footer of my website at the very, very top says, by using my website, you agree to the following terms. So just, and also important to note, any website you go to, you're agreeing to their terms, whether you read it or not. So.
Right. Okay. You got to have your terms there, which.
Yeah. And that document is what protects your legal documents and why you can't copy somebody else's privacy policy or terms and conditions. So people are like, oh, well, can't I just go onto Leslie's website and download her privacy policy and use it? No, that actually violates her terms, because she got it. She paid for it from an attorney, and now that belongs to her. That's her intellectual property. So like, that's one. Okay. The third one is a disclaimer. Disclaimer is not necessary in every business, but in most. But it's basically going to say any information that you learn on this website is not intended for legal purposes, accounting purposes, medical purposes. Like if you're not a doctor or anything like that, you really want to specify, like, I am not a licensed professional. So, anything that you read from here, you should still talk to your medical provider. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a financial planner, like anything like that, where maybe you're giving tips on, here are 3 ways to save on your taxes this year, but you're not an accountant. You need to blatantly spell that out for people that like, I'm not an accountant. This is just like my own opinion kind of a thing. There are earnings disclaimers that go in of saying that like, hey, I might share that my clients succeeded in XYZ business or earned $500,000 this year, but results are not guaranteed. Kind of stuff like that.
When you share testimonials?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What about health-related testimonials?
So, well, testimonials specifically.
Healthcare?
What's that?
All of my audience, for the most part, is doing something in healthcare.
Okay. So when it comes to health, every state, and I mean, in general, every state is different.
Right.
So, and there are very specific laws and rules when it comes to calling yourself a health coach or using certain terms. So there's like the red states, the green states, like you need to really know where you are So I can't answer specific questions
Sure.
about that. So if you're in a state that is like, you're good to go, like you don't have to be a licensed medical professional to offer health coaching services,
Mhm.
again, you really just need to spell that out. Now, if you are a licensed medical professional, you
Mhm.
need to spell that out and simultaneously say, this is not meant to cure, treat, diagnose, like if it's not, unless you have like a specific medical practice, of course, but that you should always consult with your medical provider.
Okay.
Disclaimers are huge, huge, huge in the medical space,
Okay.
obviously, as you all know.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to want information in there on HIPAA. If people are filling forms out for you, stuff like that. So there's different considerations in the medical field, totally.
Okay.
When it comes to testimonials are like a whole different topic of, I like to get permission. And I mean, you need to get permission from somebody to use a testimonial, period. Now there's a legal document that you can use, but honestly, you can get permission in an email as long as you have it in writing that
Okay.
I can use your quote, your name, or maybe it's just the first name and an initial or something like that. Like you want to just ensure exactly what it is and that you're going to be using this on your website for marketing purposes.
Mhm.
You can do that. Now, when you are doing like a testimonial, when it comes to medical stuff, you do have to kind of make sure that you're very careful of that. Results are not guaranteed. Every situation is different. Like you need to be very careful
Okay.
with stuff like that. So I would encourage you to work with a local lawyer or somebody specifically specialized in like healthcare.
Okay.
So it's very
Okay.
careful.
Guess is that my my hunch, and I'd love to get some feedback from our audience on this topic. I think probably most of us do a great job with HIPAA. We have an agreement that they sign. Um, we have our clients sign off to giving us permission to use their testimonial. But my hunch is that most of us probably do not have that bit about results are not guaranteed, and the results that you're seeing on these testimonials may not be the exact results that you get.
Yeah, and everyone's backstory is different too, you
Right.
know. So I mean, somebody might come to you with multiple ailments where
Mhm.
they physically can never get to that point, and so you don't. Yeah, it's about expectations for
Yeah.
sure. Just full blown transparency
Yeah.
is what we want to make sure we're doing. So those are just the three legal documents.
Okay.
If you're in the medical, if you are in the medical space, the health space, you got to get your disclaimer. Like you need that more than anything, because especially if you're licensed, you don't want people coming after your license.
Right. Exactly. And guys, just FYI, you can see scrolling along the bottom a bit.ly link. If you type that exact link into your browser, that will take you to some templates, pre-made legal templates that you can take a peek at. And the other thing is I put in the comments the clickable link, just in case that's easier for everybody.
Awesome. And then moving on from those, so there's the 5 building blocks to talk about. So the next one is a client agreement.
Okay.
So if you're working with clients, if you're doing coaching of some sorts, you want to have a client agreement that really spells out what is your offering, what is the program, or is there a specific structure to what you're doing? Is it 6 months with a phone call every week and email access and Facebook access? You want to be very, very clear.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to include payment information. How much does it cost? Do you offer payment plans? How can people pay you? Refund policy, very important.
Okay.
And say no refunds. And then you can give a refund. Like I always tell people, you can be more lenient than what your contract says, but you can never be stricter than what it says. And this is a really great place to set boundaries too and expectations. So, you can email me and I will respond to you within 48 hours. You can message me on Facebook. You cannot message me on Facebook.
Right.
it's really just creating that clear boundary of like how you're going to communicate, when you're going to communicate. If they cancel within 24 hours, they forfeit that call. If they need to cancel, it needs to be more than 24 hours, and then they can reschedule, stuff like that. This is a great place because then you can always just come back to it and just be like, hey, like this is what we agreed to. So it's a really great place for boundary setting. You don't think about that in terms of a legal contract, but here we are. My contracts are much more conversational than legal.
That's great, because I gotta say, I remember when I hired my first like business coach, it was a scary document. It was really frightening. I was like, oh my God, this thing is so long. It was very intimidating. Yeah. And I felt like, God, I'm signing my life away, right? Yes. I really did. It was just to work with a coach, right? I was like, oh, this is frightening. I'm kind of scared to sign it.
And that's the difference between like working with like a virtual, like somebody who specializes in the online space versus like a traditional law firm that works with corporations. And because when I was a corporate lawyer, you better believe there was like Latin language in there. And I'm like, why are we putting this in here? Like heretofore. And, I'm like, no one can read that.
What does that mean?
Yeah, we don't even know what it means, but we're just going to put it in there. So you want it. So it's really clear. It's conversational. Then there's going to be information in there around confidentiality, around intellectual property rights, like who owns what people can and can't do with the materials that you give to them, governing law, what law is going to govern the contract if there is an issue, and then a whole dispute section. So if there's a problem, what are we going to do? I like to put in there what's called an escalation clause. So you start out by saying, hey, we're going to try to resolve this in good faith between us. If we can't, maybe we'll move on to mediation. If we can't do that, we're going to go to arbitration. I never put court in there. It's never going to get that far anyway. I put arbitration. Arbitration is a much quicker and more streamlined process. I've never had anyone have to go to arbitration, but you put that in there because you have to actually agree to arbitration beforehand because it's a creature of consent and contract. So by putting it in there, you're agreeing to that. And then the last section, which a lot of people don't have, is another one of these no guarantees. So it's like, hey, I'm going to give you everything that I know, and I'm going to help you as best I can. But the coaching relationship is a two-way street. Mm-hmm. And if you're not taking the steps that I'm suggesting, I can't be responsible for your lack of results. In the health field, you can't make any promises anyway. So it's just that, like, we will do our very best to help you to navigate this with you, but there are no guarantees. Mm-hmm. So that's really important to have in there.
Okay. Yeah, that's super, super key.
Yeah. So then that document, the client contract, is one that I do typically suggest you actually get signed. It can be an electronic signature. Usually the one-on-one is a higher priced program. So you do want to have that signature. But if you're working in a group program, so if you're doing a group program or you're selling some sort of downloadable or a course, the fifth and final document that I talk about in the building blocks is called terms of use. Some lawyers call it different things. This is not the same as terms and conditions. Terms of use is a much more robust kind of client agreement. So because it's a document that you can use over and over for anything that you sell that's like an online course or a PDF or a group program, the relationship between you and the client is usually much more tenuous because you're not having those one-on-one calls to see if it's a good fit. They're just coming on and buying your program. So there's a whole lot of like detailed information of like, this is what you can and cannot do with our materials. So, and then all similar information is in there as well about the governing law and all that. But what I love about this document is this does not require a signature. So this is how I sell my templates. So on the invoice, it's going to have a checkbox that says, by purchasing, you agree to the following terms. Then you're going to link to those terms where people can read it. They have to check that box before they buy. And that check constitutes an electronic signature. So they are agreeing to these terms right away. So that when you're selling a program where you're selling like 20, 50, 100 spots, you don't want to have to send contract out or anything like that. And like I said, Yeah. And then, like I said, most of these platforms will keep track of that check mark. So that's
Okay.
proof.
You have to have the check mark.
You have. So
Okay, that is
so,
super interesting.
so legally, you don't. There's two types of agreements.
Okay.
They're both legal. They're called a click wrap and a browse wrap, right? So the browse one is just that, oh, you can see it and then you buy. The click means you have to click. So there's intentional action on that.
Okay.
And then the proof of the click. So that's where I only recommend that one because it is basically the same as getting that electronic signature. So it's just proof. Law is all about proof. What do you have in writing?
So I got a quick question about that. So when do you recommend that someone copyrights their material? And I would think that takes things to a whole nother level in terms of protection, but it seems like it might be cost prohibitive to, copyright a lot of things.
Don't generally recommend it.
Okay.
And this is why.
So interesting.
So I recommend you copyright a book.
That is okay. A book.
So book, music, lyrics, like stuff like that. That's what copyright's really about protecting original artistic expression.
Okay.
The reason I don't typically recommend people copyright their specific materials, like in a course or a program, is because if you make any sort of change to that material, that copyright is no longer valid.
Oh my gosh. We always tweak and modify every time we offer it.
Yeah. Now, if you're selling an ebook that's like a substantial ebook, sure, maybe. But guess what? When you're selling the ebook, people are also going to be agreeing to the terms of use.
Right.
So they,
and once you've got that part, right?
Yeah. And here's this. Anyone can slap that little copyright symbol on anything they create.
Okay.
Like anyone. At the bottom of your little PDF, your downloadables, slap the copyright on, put your business name, put the year in which it was last edited.
Okay.
Anytime you make a change, you need to change the year. So like, if in January you make changes, you got to change it. Okay. I always suggest saving your older versions too, just to have proof of what it was. You can put that on there because that gives people notice of like, hey, this is mine. I'm claiming ownership. The tricky part is it registered? Is it not registered? So in a way, people don't know.
Yeah, they don't.
Maybe it will deter them from copying you. Yeah. I recommend trademarks.
Okay. Yeah. I was just going to ask about that. So trademarking, how is that different? And where would that be useful?
Yeah. So trademarks are about protecting a brand identity. So it prevents brand confusion in the marketplace. So a trademark is like a name, a phrase, or a logo. So when you see this swoosh, it's Nike.
Yeah.
Right? The Target symbol, we know it's Target.
Right.
A lot of people will come to me and be like, I want to trademark all of my program names. And I'm like, that is a waste of your money. I think that, if you're building a big brand, then a business name can generally be a really good one. And then if you have like a signature program or a signature methodology, then that can be a good. So it's really like, how passionate are you about it, right? How profitable is it? And do you plan on using it for a while? So if somebody were to come along and start using that same name, how would you feel? But that being said, before you ever, and if you already have a business name and a program name and whatever, it's fine. You should always have a trademark search run before you start marketing something like that. Because I can't tell you how many times people will come up with a name of a program and somebody will reach out.
Or
somebody will reach out and like I have this happen all the time, reach out and say, hey, this is our name. You need to stop using it. And it's already a website. It's already a brand. It's already like I had somebody that I had to help rebrand everything after they had a brand new website put up. And it was like a simple search that, a lawyer could have done to prevent that.
And yeah, to avoid it. Oh gosh, such great tips. We actually have some questions.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's go ahead and look at these. Hey, Karen. So, are you familiar with Practice Better, Jenna?
With what?
Practice Better. It's a
No.
it's a HIPAA compliant EMR, basically. Okay, so Practice Better is her EMR. They have templates for disclaimers, terms, and conditions. Do you have any thoughts about using those types of things within the EMR system? Yeah, be probably hard.
I don't know anything about Practice Better,
Okay.
but my sense is that they were crafted specifically for your type of business. I'm going on there right now. So is this that do they actually give you these templates, or you can buy them from them? Practice management.
And Karen, feel free to answer yourself, but my guess is that you can download them. They're not for purchase, but they're just available for their users. Karen, let me know if I'm off on that.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Nutrition practice management platform they might be great. I don't know. Yeah, I know nothing about them, but I think that this looks, so if this is for nutritionists specifically, that I think that depending on programs and courses, browsing through here right now. I'll have to look into it a little bit more.
Yeah. Awesome.
Oh yeah, I don't want to specifically say, but if it is something that was crafted specifically for nutritionists, then it's probably pretty good. But if you're selling courses, if they're not familiar with that, then you might want to look outside of that. But again, I don't know. Feel free to email me so that I can actually look at what this website is.
Great. So hopefully, Karen, you got that. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Karen says they're free for their users. Dawn. Oh, yeah, that's a good question, right? We incorporate our company. So yeah, at what point do you recommend, creating an LLC or an S corp?
Yeah,
or a pass through or an S corp designation.
Yes. So there's a couple of things you can do. One is if you're just a sole proprietor, right? You're just you. We have an LLC, which is a limited liability company. It's kind of the next step. And then there's a corporation. And you mentioned the S corp, way better for tax purposes. So you need to, it's not going to be a clear-cut answer. It's going to be a little gray. Number one, do you have a lot of personal assets? So you own your home. Like, do you not have a lot of is there not a lot of money left on your mortgage? You want to kind of look into that, because when you're a sole proprietor, you and your business are one and the same. There's no barrier. So if somebody were to sue you for $50,000, but your business account doesn't have $50,000, they will then move on to your personal account, right? So that's where there's a risk there. If you don't have a ton of assets, you're renting, you're young, you don't have kids or whatever, you're probably okay right now with just going through and having your legal documents in place. It's essential to have the contracts there, right? If you do have assets, let's go to the LLC. Now, let's say you have no assets, but you're generally making about 50 grand in your business. This is not a clear-cut number. It's just let's start to then move into the LLC. When you have an LLC, you need to have a separate business bank account. You need to get an EIN, so employer identification number, and go open that bank account. So now, if somebody were to sue you and your bank account doesn't have $50,000 in it, that person's out of luck. They can only get whatever your business has. So that's like where the benefit comes in. It's limiting your personal liability. So, but you have to also make sure that your money from your clients is going into that bank account. Any business expenses is coming from that bank account. So I always suggest get a separate business credit card. Even if you're a sole proprietor, you should have a separate business credit card. Like, if you really want to keep track of your expenses, just for tax purposes and stuff like that. What the IRS looks for, so if you're going to get audited, is commingling of funds. We can't tell where your business ends and your personal begins. They're going to get rid of the LLC designation at that point and say, no, you're not running, a proper business. Okay. Now our business is doing great. We're bringing in a ton of money. We then might want to say, okay, I'm an LLC, but I want to choose an S Corp designation.
Mhm.
So it's like a small corporation is kind of like what it is. There's a lot more tax benefits to it, which is amazing. You don't have to become a full-blown corporation where there's like a board and like all officers and all of this. When you have an S Corp, you have to file quarterly taxes. We need payroll. So you really need to be working with an accountant.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Because if you don't pay quarterly taxes, you get penalized at the end of the year. But with the S Corp, there's just crazy tax benefits.
Yeah, I recently did that, and oh my gosh, why didn't I do it like many years ago?
I know. I mean, I don't know anything about my accountant. I'm just like, here's all of this stuff. But yeah, for sure. So yeah, so when we're jumping up from the 50K, we're an LLC, maybe we're at 100 at this point. We're like, okay, you know what? Because it is going to cost you a little bit more now when you're having your CPA, you're filing the quarterlies, have some sort of payroll system. You don't have to be on payroll where you're like getting a paycheck every other week, but it's kind of like, okay, what are we averaging that we're bringing in and giving to ourselves, kind of a thing. Your accountant can help you with that. But yeah, at that point, absolutely get yourself an accountant, maybe even a bookkeeper.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I did that right away myself. The whole payroll thing. I was like, yeah, no.
So my accountant, like, tell me what to pay myself.
Exactly. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here? What if their terms and conditions are not crafted to be the best?
Are we talking about the practice better one?
I think so. Yeah, I assume.
Well, then I have some for you. I said, well, then I have some for you.
Exactly. That's what I would recommend. I have templates that really have done the trick for me, and highly recommend them.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We got one more question. But not using an LLC, practitioners may have to divulge their social security number. I don't know if is that accurate, or would they use
where would they be divulging it? Yeah, I don't know where you would be divulging
an EIN, or like
what is even as a sole proprietor, you can get an EIN.
Yeah.
Anyone can go get an EIN so that you don't have to give out your social security number.
Right.
Another tip, this isn't a legal tip, but a personal tip, is a lot of times you have to have an address. And so I have a PO box instead of having to use my home address for certain documents, because if you use like a CRM, so when you're using your mailing list, you're supposed to have your address in there and in like your email. So I have my PO box.
That's true. That is really true. Okay. So you have a PO box just to keep that private. That's really smart.
Yeah. My one business is way too public.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone can find out anyone's address. Let's be real. But
it is a little kind of creepy to have that right on there. Like, hey, here's where I live. Right?
Yeah. Come on over.
Yeah, I like that's a really super good idea. Okay, awesome. Okay, guys, we're gonna start wrapping up. Any final words of wisdom as we start to wrap up?
Yeah, I think that for people who haven't considered anything when it comes to legal, it's okay. Like, it's totally okay. But now that you know better, you can do better, right? It's that. It's just find a place to start, right? So if you have nothing, get yourself a client agreement. Like, hands down, get yourself a client agreement. slap a mini disclaimer on your website. I don't care what it says, like just to have yourself protected in some way. Another thing that I'll read that in a second. Another thing that I actually recommend specifically with health providers and professionals, having a mini disclaimer in your email.
Oh,
Because
really?
you're going to be
Okay.
emailing clients all the time and back and forth, and just to have it there.
Yeah.
So as a lawyer, I'm required to have a little like blurb in my email,
Yeah.
just to say like, this is not medical advice,
Oh,
like, because usually by email you're not
yeah.
giving them, you know what I mean? Like if they have questions, just to protect yourself. If you're having an emergency, call 911 or call your medical provider, kind of stuff like that. Just a
Yeah.
little something. It doesn't have to be a specific legal phrase, but
Mhm.
yeah, something in your
That's
email.
a great one. I never see that. I would guess like hardly anybody on this in this session today is doing that. I've never seen it. I've seen this as a private document. If you get it by error, blah blah blah. Kind of more the privacy thing, but
Yeah.
not this is indicating that it's
Yeah.
medical advice.
Remember who your clients are. I mean, some people it may not be applicable, but especially for those who are more in the counseling field, you really have to be careful, especially with certain things that people might be emailing you and sharing, and what you're responding with, you may not think is this level, but they're taking it at that, again, it's my job to like really think of what can go wrong.
Exactly. Keep us safe. Okay, so we got one more question here, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up. So, some may feel safe, so they feel they can't be sued.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So in terms of like, I'm assuming you mean like business insurance, like liability insurance. So I think it definitely depends on the type of business that you have,
Mhm.
and the type of license that you hold. If you are a licensed medical professional, yes, I suggest that you get yourself some liability insurance.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
like the first thing that you do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Now, if you're not a licensed professional and you're like, if you're like, let's say you're a health coach, but you're not like licensed, you went to IIN or something like that, I don't think you really need it.
Okay.
Because you're going to have the documents and stuff like that in place, and they're not, there's like limitation of liability stuff in there. But when you have a license, you're under a whole nother set of rules and regulations. So that's just different, so you want to definitely talk to like an insurance broker, because it's different than legal, for sure. Like you want to just find out like what's really good for you based on your specific license.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's cost effective.
Totally.
I mean, obviously depending on what you do, but like for dietitians and private practice and who are licensed, it is very reasonable.
Yeah, it's important. It's all about covering your booty, right? Like it's like,
back to the name.
There you go. I mean, as you can tell, I'm not like the lawyery type.
I
yeah,
love that.
Oh, thank you. When I left corporate law, that was a promise I made to myself. I was like, I'm never going to not be myself again, and I'm not going to like stifle my personality. And so for years, I was branded as the sparkly lawyer. And then I became a mom, and that brand kind of changed.
Yeah. That is super cute.
Thanks.
Did you always know you wanted to be a lawyer?
No.
Just curious.
No, I wanted to be on Broadway.
Did you? Oh my gosh. So you were in New York, great place to be on Broadway. Did you want to act, or what was your talent?
I did. So I was a nationally competitive gymnast. I competed in college, and so I did dance as well. But I auditioned like my whole senior year of college, but I needed a little bit more stability. So I got a corporate job right out of college because I moved to New York right away, and just kind of trying to figure out like what I wanted to do. And I was gonna go for an MBA because I loved finance and securities and math. And I was talking to like one of my mom's friends who's like very business savvy, and she's like, you can do more with a JD than an MBA. you can do as much and more. So I was like, I guess I'm going to go to law school. Like, it was literally that. Like,
yeah. Okay. That's so cool.
I was like, I had no desire to be a lawyer at first. Then I wanted to be a prosecutor because I loved Law and Order. And then my second year of law school, I was on the moot court team, and just fell in love with kind of like contracts and like corporate law.
Okay.
But in practice, not as much.
Your journey to where you are now.
Yeah.
Great,
But every part played a perfect piece in
and getting.
If I didn't go corporate, I wouldn't be where I am because I learned the skills that I needed and all about contracts. And when I first started, I was doing like M&A stuff. So I was like helping people buy and sell companies because that's what I did in my corporate. So they were like crazy contracts. And I did that for a little bit, even in my private practice. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. Let's like tone it down.
Right. Found your niche, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jenna, thank you so much. Gosh, I just greatly appreciate all of your time and your willingness to help out my audience, right? It's incredible. So thank you. Wishing you all the best. Hope you have a wonderful holiday. And thank you. And it was great meeting you. Great to
I know you too.
It's really fun today. So, and I'm glad, I guess my dogs today were reasonably well behaved. Not the best, but reasonably well, right? So
it's all good.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same place. Okay. Bye, everybody. Take care.